Hello and welcome back at long last to the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. With me, as always, I say that we record
Yeah.
once a year. Is it really as always? But it's Garrett Ballard. Garrett, what is
Yeah,
up?
I'm back. It's been a good summer, slower, but good. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking Bucs football again. Excited to get rolling again for sure.
Yeah, if we were just talking about it like before we hit play, it has been a long time, and man, I can't even remember the last thing we talked about.
Yeah, it probably was the draft. We were talking about it, and we definitely got our thoughts out there about the draft class and what we expect from them. But I think since then, we've kind of just been riding out the summer slowness. We're kind of regrouping here as preseason's kicking up and training camp is in full flow, and we've been reading a lot of things, following along with the Bucs training camp, seeing what guys are doing well, what guys aren't, and we have some thoughts. We're gonna do a nice comprehensive kind of overview of what we think the Bucs look like right now and how they look this season. What's going on? Glad people are joining. Go Bucs.
Go Bucks. Yeah, we haven't said it in what feels like months online.
I know. I'm happy people are showing up. We've been super inconsistent this summer, but whoever's here, thank you guys because it means a lot for sure.
Yeah, so let's just do a quick recap. Off-season happened.
Yep.
Bucks signed everyone they wanted.
Yeah. And some of those guys still not showing up, but that's fine.
Did we really want Randy Gregory anyway? It felt like it was a cover your ass kind of move. Like, in case we can't draft a pass rusher, we should probably sign one. And then we drafted one. It's like, okay, do we really read?
We're past Randy Gregory. We're on a Chris Braswell.
Oh yeah, Chris Braswell's better anyway.
Yeah, that's always have said that.
Yes, I mean Randy Gregory, he's old news. He's probably never going to play again.
Yeah, probably not.
So, yeah, we got Mike Evans, we got Antoine Winfield, we got Tristan Wirfs, we got Chase McLaughlin.
You know who we don't have? You know who we don't have?
No, I can't think of anyone we're missing.
Devin White.
Devin White. Yeah, I hear he might be in Philadelphia these days.
Yeah, it's tough. They drafted a guy who does the same thing as him too. So, hey.
Not play football well.
No, you know what? Shout out Devin White for the Super Bowl run. Best football he's played ever. But
yeah, I'll never go as far as to call him a bust because he was so vital to that Super Bowl team.
I'm with you. I am 100% with you. But he had definitely outstayed his welcome in Tampa. We are on to KJ Britt.
Yes. Not something I would have thought we would be saying a year ago. But we are.
Yeah, definitely not. But hey, you're right. We brought back everybody. Tristan Wirfs extended, highest paid tackle in NFL history. Same thing with Antoine Winfield, highest paid safety in NFL history. Jason Light and the rest of the front office, John Greenberg, are just masters when they come to maintaining and keeping the players that are good in Tampa. It's nice being able to say that we have a front office who is devoted to keeping this team good for the long run for sure.
It's a crazy concept. You draft really good players, you develop them into really great players, and then you pay them accordingly.
Yeah. It's one thing that the stat that kind of sat with me when Tristan Wirfs got his contract is like it's nearly like the amount of money that the Glazers bought the team for in the 90s.
Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
I had not heard that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's like I think 30 million less, but like when you're looking in the grand scheme of things, that's not a ton of money in football. So that was a pretty nutty stat that I saw. I'll try and find it if you want to fill a little bit here.
Sure. So we got all our free agents back. We had an excellent draft. Now, I think that's the last thing we really dived deep on was how good our draft class was because we did so much prep leading up to it. And now we've had a couple of weeks of camp. We are really starting to get a feel for what this team is shaping into. And I'm actually really excited about this group. Like, following everything that's been going on in camp, there isn't anyone who's like coming up short, who's leaving me wanting more. Like even guys I was critical of, or thought maybe there'll be a little bit of a slow burn, need to develop some of these rookies. All of them are just clicking. And Bucks Rays Bolt says it here. Love the center we drafted. Yeah, Graham Barton. He's looking really
awesome.
good.
He's looking awesome.
It was fun to see him do his thing in the running game because dude is a mean run blocker.
I immediately think back to his sorry to interrupt you there, but I immediately think back to his like press conference when we drafted him. He was like, look, I'm not a mean person, but I know I have to be on the field.
Yeah. You can switch it on and off like that. You're on the field, you're a bully. You're off the field, you're a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs comes off as a super nice guy. Levante David comes off as mellow as you can imagine. Mike Evans, but they strap up the pads and they bully people on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm excited to see how he does for the rest of the preseason. I don't think they've kind of called because I guess they're still technically saying Hainsey is part of that center race, but I think Barton has that thing locked up.
I agree, but I like the way they're handling it. It's one of those nothing given, everything earned kind of things. If you want the job, you got to go take it.
100%. I mean, competition breeds excellence, right? Like that's the whole thing is like if there's no one there to compete with you, you're going to get kind of lackadaisical and think you have it locked up because honestly you do. So if there is competition there, and in this case it's the first round pick against the starter from last year, both guys are going to want it, right? And they're not going to really give it up easily. So that's only going to make both of them better, and in turn it'll make the Bucs better.
Yeah, and it's all down the line. Chris Braswell against JTS, and I think JTS has sounded like he's had a really good camp.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Chris Izzian and Tyke Smith. Chris Izzian did a really nice job for this team last year as an undrafted free agent, and he has really carved out a nice role for himself to where he's a meaningful part of this team.
Yeah.
And Jalen McMillan has been the talk of camp. Dude's an absolute stud.
I feel like every single day I'm like, yeah, that's another tweet saying he caught like a 25-yard touchdown pass.
Man, who could have seen that coming?
Us. We did here. Literally go listen to our draft episodes. We talked about him, I feel like, every week.
Yeah, I posted that episode with Alex that we did. Yeah. Alex Katzen writes for the Husky Wire covering Washington football. And we all were just glowing about Jalen McMillan before we drafted him. And it's like, man, I hope we draft this guy.
I don't think there's a better fit in all of the draft for any other team than Jalen McMillan to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not kidding. It was the perfect pick.
Is a perfect fit.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say I called him this year's Puka Nacua back in March, but I kind of called him this year's Puka Nacua back in March.
It's tough. It's tough when one of them is drafted on day 2.
It is. It's hard to be that good.
It's this year's. It's this year's Chris Godwin. It's legitimately just Chris Godwin 2.0. That's what it is. Yeah, he's gonna be
2-3 years from now. He's gonna be wide receiver 1 on this team. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. At worst, a high end 2.
Yeah. So, rookie's looking really good. I think everyone can agree. We're really happy with what all the reports are pointing for them.
Yep. Also, shout out Bucky Irving.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah.
You know who actually caught my eye in that first preseason game, and we can touch a little bit more on the game?
Yeah.
Elijah Klein.
Right block.
When Sua Opena went down, I was really disappointed because, one, that competition between him and Bredesen I thought was going to be good, and 2, I thought Opena was going to win that job ultimately.
I was excited to see him.
Yeah, I was too. I was watching some of his Eagles film from last year, and he was holding his own against Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Dude is a good player.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys, he kind of like the Ryan Jensen or the Shaq Barrett. Another team found him. He developed in a good program. Then he went off to free agency to kind of carve out a role for himself in the world. And I think he was going to. And it's super unfortunate. I think he tore his ACL.
Yeah, he did. Do you remember what his contract details were?
I think it was pretty minimal. I know he got less than Bredesen.
A year, like term-wise.
probably a year. I don't remember offhand, but it was not a big
Yeah,
investment.
that's a bummer because I really did think that he would have been good for this offense. And I mean, coming from that Eagles offensive line, even if you're a backup, you're a stud, pretty much.
Yeah,
That's a
he looked
really,
good in
really
time.
talented group. Yeah, yeah. And if it is a year, um, I don't know. Hopefully they see some stuff and can bring him back because I did think he was going to have a really, really positive impact on this offense.
I absolutely agree. He would have been probably the most powerful player on that interior.
On the interior, for sure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Barton might give him a run for his money shortly here, but starting out, I would agree.
But with his injury came up an opportunity for Elijah Klein, who I did not think was going to make the initial 53-man roster looking back at it a month ago. But now with Opeta out, Klein got an opportunity, and he looked really good in that preseason game.
Yeah, you can really see what the team saw in him when they were like, yeah, let's draft this guy in the 6th, right? Obviously, there was the run blocking, just a really mean run grading, but I mean, he looked good all around, truthfully.
Yeah, and he had a couple of reps where he did not win, and
Of course,
first preseason game, I'm not going to
it's gonna
sweat
come.
that too much.
Yeah, and where did he come from again? UTEP.
I think UTEP.
UTEP, one either that or UTSA.
Yeah.
Similar colors, but again, small school to the NFL, gonna be a jump.
Mm-hmm. But he looked like he belonged, absolutely. Granted, it was against backups, but he was a 6th-round pick. No one's expecting him to come in and light the world on fire. If you can be a depth piece and
Yeah.
a good backup for a team, that's a big hit for a 6th-round draft pick.
Oh, 100%. 6th-round draft pick as a competent backup who can start at spots. You can't ask for anything better. I mean, you can ask for something better, but like you're likely not going to get it, and there are very, very few opportunities where you do get it. So, very, very pleased with what we saw from Elijah Klein.
So how are we feeling on this offensive line? We know what Wirfs is. We will probably feel even better about Gadecki this year. Barton's looking good early. Cody Mauch looked good in that game.
Yeah. I've always my take on offensive line and their kind of struggles or successes is that you do not want two bad pieces next to each other, and I do not think the Bucs have that. So I'm very pleased with where this offensive line's at. Obviously, you could use one more solid piece because I mean Bredesen is. I mean he's not going to like be outstanding. I'm very excited to see how Mauch developed in the offseason going into year 2. But I think they have a very, very, very good offensive line with a lot of upside.
I mean, you just think about the investment they've made in it. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks.
Yep.
The talent level and the athletic ability is as good as anyone in the NFL. It's just a matter of developing them into a cohesive unit and getting them up to that level of play of someone like the Eagles or the Lions, those top-tier offensive lines. Because I think in time they can get there. Maybe not this year because it takes a while to bring these guys along, but I think they are trending in that direction.
I agree. I mean, you think back to, I mean, when they really first started reshaping this offensive line with the acquisition of Ryan Jensen and the drafting of Tristan Wirfs, following it up by drafting Gadecki a couple years later, and now drafting Barton, drafting Mauch in the 2nd round last year, or was it? It was 2nd, right?
Mauch 2nd, yeah.
Yeah, 2nd. And Jason Light even said it at the combine. I mean, he was like, we are investing heavily in the trenches this offseason, specifically the offensive line. And they did that. They did exactly that. I think Barton, we've talked about it before, was the guy they had their eye on the entire time in the pre-draft process, and they got him. Everything after that was kind of just a cherry on top. And from what we've seen so far, it looks like their scouting and their assessment of the entire situation has been pretty spot on.
Yeah, really the last 2 years, because you go back 2 years ago, Cansey, defensive tackle, Mauch, guard, Yaya Diaby, edge. This year, Graham Barton, center. Got another edge in Braswell. Like they are building up front first and foremost, and I think they're going to do again next year when they get to that point. Probably another defensive tackle, unless Logan Hall takes a step forward. Maybe another guard. Like Jason Light wants to win up front.
Oh, absolutely. And I personally, I know we were talking about the offensive line there, cannot wait for this defensive line to be fully together, fully healthy, and just wreaking havoc on everyone they play. Because that's an explosive unit, man.
Yeah, let's talk about the defensive line a little. So let me ask you two questions.
Sure.
One, what do you make of these reports of Yaya Diaby being almost unblockable in camp until he got injured? And how will you that wasn't a serious injury?
I'm very happy that it wasn't a serious injury, and I buy it for the reports that he's almost unblockable. I mean, what we saw last season, that was some pretty high level play from a rookie who's only been playing like football for really like 4 years, 5 years now. Because I mean, what he was working at an airport before he got the Louisville offer, right?
I think he played, I don't know
I
if it
mean,
was high school or when he first went to Louisville, but I think he initially played wide receiver there too.
yeah, he like completely changed his position and his body type and everything. And you can see the athleticism on display whenever he's on the field. And he's just so explosive, so powerful, great against the run, really, really talented pass rusher. Pair him with Cansey on the side, on the inside, who is just maybe as explosive as you can get for an interior defensive lineman, and then slim down Vita Vea is just going to be a menace. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see V in action. I mean, he dropped 30 pounds, and I would love to see him, move around, put great gains on the field and nose, put V at three tech
Oh,
and
that would
Cansey
be
on the
awesome.
edge. Like Todd Bowles is going to have a field day with a more mobile and energized Vita Vea.
Man, it's going to be so fun to watch. I can't wait to just like look at the games and see what kind of stunts and pulls and, trickeration they do with that D line. Because look, all I'm saying is that uh, Vita Vea dropping into coverage is going to be even more fluid now.
Yes. The world is better when nose tackles drop into coverage.
Yeah, yep.
It worked for BJ Raji in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And then, kind of on that topic of defensive tackles, Kalijah Cansey had a fantastic rookie year. Quietly one of the better rookie years you're going to see from a defensive tackle across the NFL. Where are we at with him? Expectations year two.
I mean, my expectations are just building off last year. I mean, last year was and I mean a big jump. Like I think he's going to be one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in the league this year, based off of like pressure statistics and that sort of thing. And I think sacks as well. I mean, you look at him, the natural leverage that he plays with, and the quickness and the surprising power for his size. You don't see that, and I mean that. Like you do not see his combo of those traits frequently, and what he's able to do in his with his frame and his get off is truly unique. And I'm expecting a very big year from Kalijah Cansey.
Yeah, I think Jalen Carter gets a lot of the spotlight for a rookie defensive tackle last year. And he was fantastic in his own right. He
Yep.
had more sacks than Kalijah, but people don't pay attention. Kalijah had more tackles for loss, and he
Yep.
missed time. And
He
when he
was
got back towards the end of the year, he was cooking. He got 2 sacks in the playoffs. So
yep.
really, he
He
had
was
just
in
as
the
many sacks.
backfield on every snap, every pass rush snap, and a lot of run snaps as well. He's in the backfield so much, man. It's crazy.
I think we could be looking at a Pro Bowl year for Kalijah Cansey. I
I'm
really
with
do.
you. I'm with you.
I would go as far as to say I expect him to lead this team in sacks, and that's not easy for a
Um,
defensive tackle.
I'm gonna stick with Diaby. I think it's gonna be Diaby,
Where
just
do you
because I
think that
think
number
edge.
lands? Because leading the team in
Yeah,
sacks, V led it 2 years ago with 6.5. So where do we
yeah.
think, whether it's Yaya, whether it's Kalijah, where are these guys
So
going to land here?
I think we're gonna have a lot of sacks this year, just as a whole. I think Diaby's gonna lead the way with probably hovering around like 10, 11, right around the double digit mark, and then Cansey's gonna be really close behind him with probably like 8, maybe 9, and then Vita's always going to give you like 6 or 7. So that's kind of where I view where we're at right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I think both Yaya and Kansi land around 9-ish.
Yeah.
Because you go back to his production last year, and he didn't have like a lot of the big stats in terms of pass rush win rate and things like that. So a lot of
Sure.
his pressure was kind of manufactured.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, it's going to be manufactured again this year because he plays for Todd Bowles. So
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
he did last year is only going to be improved with another year of teaching and another year of learning and polishing his technique. Like Yaya can do anything physically on the field. Like, he
Yeah.
is a
I mean,
freak athlete.
and when you look at like that Todd Bowles rush scheme, pass rush win rate. Goodness, can't say that 5 times fast. It's I don't want to say it's like a useless stat in a Todd Bowles scheme, but it kind of is. Like, I mean, you don't really need to. That's not like the end all be all for a Todd Bowles scheme. It's like, can you do this? If so, we're gonna have you do it, pretty much, and it's gonna go well.
Yeah, because what's your pass rush win if you start out next to the left tackle and then you end up screaming
Right.
past the right guard, but you don't touch anyone?
Exactly. It's like, yeah, what happens when Vita Vea is playing linebacker? Like, what are we doing there? It's a very unique scheme, and it needs to be looked at with not with a wider scope.
I'm excited to see the evolution of it this year. I think it's going to turn into more. It's still going to be Todd Bowles, but it sounds like it's going to be more zone heavy with the trade of Carlton Davis and
Yeah.
the way they were trending last year. It's going to be more Dick LeBeau when he was with the Steelers, and less of the man press blitz style we've seen from Todd Bowles. It'll be more the zone blitz, I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're going to get Woodfield in there all the time.
Sure.
For
And
sure.
Tyke Smith.
Tyke Smith's a great blitzer. He's an awesome nickel.
Jordan
They
Whitehead.
dude, like they completely loaded this defense up with just chess pieces, truthfully.
Yeah, there can't be a better safety room in the NFL. I mean, maybe the Falcons after signing Justin Simmons, but
yeah, that's a really good one. But I mean, man, Winfield literally can line up anywhere. Bringing Jordan Whitehead back was the perfect move. Drafting Tyke Smith shores up that nickel position that can allow you to keep Antoine Winfield wherever you really want him. Isian, great backup nickel, can allow you to blitz Tyke Smith. It's so versatile, so complete. Anything you really want, you have a backup for, and anything you really need to do, you can do with the people you have in that room. It's special for sure.
Yeah, it's just wave after wave. I mean, you talk about the safeties, you talk about the defensive line. If it's not Yaya and JTS, it's Chris Braswell and Anthony Nelson. Linebackers, I'm really excited to see Servassier Dennis this year.
Yeah.
Behind KJ Britt. And this team is just stacked. I mean, the pass catchers are insane. Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Cade Otton, Rashad White.
I mean, we're not even talking about, I mean, I'll say it after I say this phrase, but like what the Bucs have done is they're like, all right, who are the like most explosive players available? Bring them to Tampa, truthfully. Because I mean, you look at Servassier Dennis, freak athlete at linebacker. Defensive lines are all just stud athletes. Get off is crazy. DBs can play anywhere. Wide receivers, awesome all around. Rashad White is just a super big play. You know, he'll get you the big play, and then Bucky Irving's kind of like the complement to that. And then you bring in Cade Otton, who's like the opposite. He's like sure-handed, not going to wow you with anything. And then out of the blue, you draft Devin Culp, who run a 4.4 at tight end, right? I mean, you're just loading your offense up with explosiveness and your defense, all of it.
It really is crazy. But let me ask you this question because it's topical this week, talking about loading up. And Bucks Rays Bolts asked in the chat, the Falcons traded for Matt Judon. Yeah. Should the Bucks have been in on Judon, or should they be looking at Hassan Reddick, who has demanded a trade from the Jets, even though the Jets say they're not going to trade him?
Yeah, I think for a third round pick, Matt Judon would have been a nice pickup. But I also don't think that people need to be there like, oh, Jason Light, what are you doing? Because their process has worked. I mean, I'm it's I've done it. So if you're not familiar with the Tampa Bay Rays, any trade that they make gets incredible speculation from national media. And a lot of people down here in Tampa are just kind of like, trust Eric Neander. He's one of the best in the sport. Um, it should be the same way with Jason Light with drafting and not signing people. Matthew Judon is an awesome player. They love Yaya Diaby. They love what they got in Chris Braswell. They clearly have a lot of faith in JTS. And if there's one thing that we learned about Jason Light, he loves his draft picks. So you got to really make a good offer for him to give up with a draft pick, give up a draft pick for a player. That said, Hassan Reddick is better than Matthew Judon right now.
You think Reddick's better than Judon?
Yeah.
All right.
I think for what the Bucs are looking for in terms of an explosiveness, a pass rush, the whole thing. I think Judon fits more of like the versatility role. He could probably slide inside a little bit better. Because Reddick, I think, is kind of like that. What's the word I'm looking for? Like pass rush specialist type, where you're not going to really rely on him to slide inside. He's really just rush the passer. But he is explosive, man. I do not think they should trade for him, though. I do not think they should trade for him.
Well, obviously, any trade would come with a new contract because he was just traded to the Jets, and he's demanded a new trade because they haven't extended him. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, that was not a lot of thought put into that deal. So obviously,
both players are great. Yeah, both players are great. Don't think the Bucs should have traded for either. But
I could have been on board with the Judon trade. I'm big on Judon. He played right up the road here at Grand Valley State here in Michigan. So I'm big on Judon. He was one of my sleepers in that draft class.
Awesome player.
But I see your point too, and I don't disagree with it. You give Judon reps, he's taking reps away from the young guy. And is Judon the piece that puts you over the top to win a Super Bowl this year? I don't think he is for the Bucs. I think the Bucs could win a Super Bowl with him. I think they could possibly win it without him. They'd be in a better spot to win it with him, but I still wouldn't say that they're the favorite in the NFC. So would you rather possibly win a Super Bowl, but develop your young guys and put you in a better position to win a Super Bowl next year? Or would you get a little bit, well, I don't want to say a little bit better because Judon's really good, but would you get notably better, but still not be that team who is probably going to win the Super Bowl, but you're closer to it. You could do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Super Bowl upside is there for the Bucs this year. But I think the really good thing about it too is that it's there next year. This is a young team, man. I think you add a couple more pieces in that wide receiver room that can follow up Mike Evans and Chris Godwin after they're done in a couple years. That window just extends. I mean, they have done an unreal job of being patient. They do not panic when things are looking rough, when there's a hole in the team. They are not panic buying in free agency, or they're not overpaying players that they shouldn't, right? They're waiting. They're seeing what's available. They are assessing what is correct for them, and they're jumping at each opportunity calculated, right? They're making a very calculated decision in both free agency and the draft that complement each other. And they have done a tremendous job of taking this team from a kind of perennial loser to a consistent threat in the NFC.
And just think about where this team was, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Tom Brady looked like a dud. He was retiring. Byron Leftwich was a disaster. A lot of the older veterans who signed on with the Bucs to ring chase, they didn't get there with Brady for that second ring, and the Bucs really had to retool this roster and get younger and more athletic.
It was bleak.
And in 2 years, since that time, they really did a great job of that, adding, we talked about it, Cansey, Mock, Yaya. Uh, we talked about Luke Gedeke, Rashad White, Zion McCollum, who's going to be a big part of this team this year, Logan Hall, who hopefully takes a step forward. Maybe
We'll see.
we'll see. But I mean, if he's the worst starter on your defense, you can live with that.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
So Jason Light has done a great job looking at this in a long-term view while still keeping them in a window where they are competitive and winning division titles and are once again now in a position to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I want to raise a question.
Mhm.
If you were to pick out one aspect of this team that would prevent them from at least reaching a Super Bowl this year, what is it?
To prevent them from reaching a Super Bowl, I think it is if the pass rushers don't take the step forward we're expecting them to.
I 100% agree.
If Cansey gives us another 4-sack year, which was great as a rookie, but in year 2 would be a huge disappointment.
Yep.
If Yaya takes a step backwards and he's a 6-sack guy, this team will not go where we want them to.
No, I'm with you. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was like sitting here as we were, we always knew we were going to record today, and I was like, what about this team would be bad? And I was like, a year ago, I was like, the quarterback sucks. And do I think Baker Mayfield's the type of quarterback that will lead us to a Super Bowl? No. Do I think that the team around him is good enough to get us to one and he does his job well enough? 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you can't sit here and tell me that Brock Purdy is definitively better than Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
Jared Goff is definitively better than Baker Mayfield.
Bingo.
I mean, the NFC, the best teams, they have comparable quarterbacks to the Bucs.
It took the words out of my mouth. The young pieces developing is going to be crucial.
And as I've criticized Todd Bowles in the past, but that's one thing he's done a really good job of is developing players, particularly him on the defensive end.
Yep.
When the Bucs won the Super Bowl, it's because he got his hands on Carlton Davis and Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield, Jamel Dean, all of these guys drafted and developed by Todd Bowles. And even now, KJ Britt, who was a late pick, and they've turned him into a legitimate player. He is a very solid starter.
You can say what you want about Todd Bowles as a head coach. The man is a hell of a defensive coach.
Yeah, and a teacher. Like, guys don't get better unless they have someone showing them how to do it. Like, I don't care how talented you are. Like, there have been guys through every year are incredibly talented and never put it together. So I will remain critical of Todd Bowles when he deserves it, but that is one thing he's done a very good job of in his time, not only as head coach, but as defensive coordinator, is developing talent.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to stay on the topic of coaching here. I want to shift our focus a little bit to the offense. What did you think of the play calling in that first preseason game? New offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, first thoughts.
I thought it was intentional, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Obviously, preseason, you're getting a very vanilla, group
100%.
of plays.
You're going to see the skeleton of the scheme, though, at least.
Mm-hmm. No, I was really impressed with a lot of the route combinations. I think it was Real Bucs Talk posted a breakdown of one of Jalen McMillan's routes, and it was a route where he didn't even catch the pass, but he opened it up for Trey Palmer to put it near the goal line. So I liked a lot of the route concepts. I liked the way they're handling the center battle, where they gave Hainsey a drive and then Barton a drive and then Hainsey a drive and then Barton a drive, and they were intentional with the way they were trying to run it because they're trying to learn things. They're trying to understand who's going to fit best for what they want to do, because these are, like you said, the skeleton, the bones of what they want to be. These are kind of those basic bread and butter plays. So I really thought they did a good job of doing those and getting an evaluation of their guys. And I think what we saw was very promising. A lot of
Yeah.
A lot of the formations they ran and the way they're going to run the ball and different looks. And it's also simple, but it's also, I don't want to call it complex, but it feels complex when you've watched Byron Leftwich coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, simplicity is sometimes what you need, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel to get it rolling. Um, using what pieces you have in the offense, uh, using what talented pieces you have in the offense is going to win you football games. And I think Liam Cohen understands that. I think he knows that Jalen McMillan has been a stud and is trying to get him in the most successful positions to catch balls. I mean, that backside dig was disgusting, right? Um, it's very clear that he knows how to kind of orient his offense around his best pieces.
I mean, that's what he said in his press conference. In
Yep.
times of crisis, think players, not plays.
Yep.
And so keep in mind, this was the offensive coordinator with the Rams when Cooper Kupp went for nearly 2,000 yards. He is going to get his guys the ball. Like he wants to put you in a position to succeed, and he's going to do it as often as possible, and he's just going to keep doing it if it keeps working.
And one thing about that quote that I think kind of changes here is that when you're in times of crisis, you can think whatever the hell you want because the players on the field for whatever play you're going to call are really good.
Mm-hmm. And then it just becomes about matchup.
Yeah.
Because if you've got Mike Evans, he's your guy. But if he's going against Sauce Gardner or, insert elite corner here, then it's okay. You've got Chris Godwin, you've got Rashad White, you've got Jalen McMillan. Like, you got nothing but options. So all of these guys are players, like legitimate players. And you can just pick and choose what's going to be most advantageous for us in this situation.
I want to give a quick shout out to Trey Palmer because I think he's been having a good camp too, from what I've been seeing. A lot of deep ball connections with Baker. And I think that wide receiver 3 role is going to be split pretty much 50-50 between the two, if I'm being honest.
I think we're going to see a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. I think they're both going to get a ton of looks.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
On a related note, we're not going to see a lot of multiple tight end sets. And we have 4 tight ends who are fighting to make 3 who are fighting to make a roster. Kadon's already going to make it. Yep. What do you make of this tight end battle between Payne Durham, Kokeeft, and rookie Devin Culp?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you have Kokeeft, blocker extraordinaire, right? Devin Culp, receiver extraordinaire, and then Payne Durham, who is kind of like a red zone threat, right? So you have 3 pretty one-dimensional tight ends. And I'm thinking it's just going to be one of them is going to be the odd man out. And I think if I had to pick one, I think it's going to be Payne Durham.
Do you think he's the odd man out?
I do. Just because the other 2 offer something they are elite at.
I don't know if I see it that way.
Sure.
I'm afraid it's going to be Kokeeft.
Yeah, I could see it. That was my second. I think Devin Culp makes it outright.
I do. I think he's the mold for what they want in a tight end moving forward.
What he offers is just way too valuable, to be honest with you. And it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I want a red zone tight end on my roster with Mike Evans, right? That's kind of where my mind sits. Because you don't need one, truthfully. He is your red zone tight end. Like, it doesn't matter. I prefer the elite blocking and then the elite receiving of Devin Culp, but I see where you're coming from. I really do.
And I think I prefer it too.
Yeah.
But I also think of it this way. It's easier to get Payne Durham closer to a level of blocking that Kokeeft has than it could be to get Kokeeft to a level of pass catching that Payne Durham has. Like, you can't just be a non-factor in the passing game in this offense.
Do you think that's the case at this level of play? Do you think Payne Durham can really reach that level of blocking in the NFL?
I don't think he can reach that level of blocking, but I think he can be a good blocker, and I think that could be good enough for them. He's got the frame for it.
He does. You're right. He does. Ah, man, it's hard. I really don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the most interesting position battle for me because there's three guys who I think all three of them could be tight end two, and all three of them could be the guy cut. And I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be Culp, but it's not crazy that it would be Culp.
No, it's not. It's not. It's very close because I mean, at the same time, they could say we don't really need a field stretcher. We have Trey Palmer, or we have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. They ran 4.4s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And it's not
I
like
don't know.
Culp was absolutely lighting it up in college. He was the backup tight
Right.
end to a guy who
Exactly.
wasn't very athletic.
Yeah. Exactly. Like there's a I don't know. It's a really weird thing because it's like you have three. Like I said, you have three one-dimensional tight ends. How you want to deploy them is going to be really, really different. So it's going to be very niche. Could they take four? What do you think?
I think it'd be really hard to take four because
I
you
agree.
got three quarterbacks,
I
you
mean,
got four running backs because they're probably going to keep Chase Edmonds.
does
So
the injury to Sua Opeta affect it?
I don't think so because you still got 9 offensive linemen. Your 5 starters. You got
Yeah,
Hainsey, you got Klein, you got School, and probably Brandon Walton.
unless they don't keep one of them.
It's hard to live with
I
eight
know.
offensive linemen.
And you're taking what, 6 receivers?
Yeah. Yeah, you got your big four, Sterling Shepard and Raheem Jarrett probably.
Shout out Ryan Miller, by the way.
Yeah, it seems like they've had a lot of these young guys having good camps on wide
Having an
receiver.
awesome camp. My buddy, a good friend of mine, played football with him at Furman. He's a good kid, but he's
Nice.
been having an awesome camp.
Yeah, the Bucs they're going to be letting good players go when they make cuts, and
Yeah.
it's a reflection of how good this roster is, but it's always a bummer.
Yep.
And one name we haven't mentioned, and Bucs Rays Bolts brings it up. Tavier Thomas has had a really good camp. He's leading the team in interceptions, and he's another guy in the mix for that nickel job and kind of a swing corner inside outside, and he's having a really good camp. So they're going to keep 5 corners, I'm sure, and he's definitely one of them. Probably
he is.
Thunderberg or Keenan Isaac is the 5th guy.
I mean, you think it's Dean, McCollum, and then Thomas.
And then you got Bryce Hall.
Bryce Hall, forgot about Bryce Hall. Yep. And then
you got to have a 4th outside corner because Thomas is more of an
for
inside
sure.
guy.
And you have a nickel in. Let me ask: do you think that the nickel job is between Thomas and Smith?
It's hard to say. I think he was the starter last year, and they want to get better in coverage because as good a run defender as he is and a good tackler, he is not a great coverage player. He's more of a strong safety who can play nickel. I think Thomas and Smith are the 2 guys, and I think that's just a reflection of how good this roster is because Izzy could start on a lot of teams.
Yes. I think that they brought in Jordan Whitehead to move Izzy into his backup.
And I think that's a great fit. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that them signing Thomas and then drafting Smith shows that as well. So I think that's Tavier Thomas for sure makes the roster. And then the 5th, like you said, it's one of the UDFA guys.
And then here's a name that needs to be brought up. Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
Bucs Rays Bolt says he's out the door, but I think he's making this team right now. He's listed as their starting kick returner. He had a great preseason game. Jason Lay had rave reviews about him in camp. Like this is a really talented running back, and as a depth player, could play a role on this team.
The special teams value keeps him alive.
Absolutely.
Because if it wasn't for that, he would have had to he would need to kill it in the preseason and the rest of training camp because I think Chase Edmonds is pretty solidified in making the team here. So I think without the kick returning, it would be rough, but he's the starting kick returner. I mean, you got to have one. And without Devin Tompkins anymore, he's the guy.
Yeah, I think they're going to go into this with 4 running backs with White and Irving, and Edmonds might be inactive on game days, but he'll be on the roster. Yep. And Sean Tucker is your special teams guy, and really he could be their most physical runner. I mean,
He for sure is.
builds ahead of steam and he puts his shoulder down.
He absolutely is their most physical runner. I don't think 5'9" Bucky Irving is doing all that.
Which I think is really just a testament to this is a finesse group of running backs overall.
Yes.
Which is fine because there have been really great finesse running backs. I mean, Matt Forte was not a power running back.
Yep.
But he was a really good football player.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so let's kind of jump to the now because we've talked about the offseason. We've talked about we agree that this team can win a Super Bowl. I think we both agree they're not the favorites in the NFC to come out, which I would say is probably Detroit right now.
It's either Detroit or still San Francisco.
See, I really like the Rams as well. I think the Rams are – I'd even put the Rams above San Francisco because of quarterback.
I don't know. I need to see more from the Rams. They lost some pieces.
But the Bucs are right there too. I mean, I think they're better than any team in the NFC East. I think they're right there towards the top. If not that top tier, then that next tier, who isn't a favorite to do it but can do it.
Yes.
So let's just get back to earth here. Let's stick to the now. Buccaneers had joint practice this week with the Jaguars. Day one, little rough.
Little bit. Some drops.
Yeah. We just got done saying all these great things, but Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, interceptions. Day two, a lot better.
Yes.
Which, when you're traveling, you expect to be a little bit jet lagged. Any concern at all knowing that the Jaguars got the better of this team, especially in the pass defense where the reports are Brian Thomas, their rookie wide receiver, was unguardable.
That comes as no shock to me. I love that guy coming out of LSU. I think he's an unreal wide receiver. Two, rebuttaling against your point about jet lag, it is the Jaguars. They are
down the road,
3.5 hours to the east, the northeast of Tampa.
Just a long bus ride.
Just had to clear that up. And then 3 about the concerns. No. Obviously you want to have good practices, and good practices turn into good games. But it's about getting the team right now. This is their first joint practice, right? They didn't have one against the Bengals.
Did not.
So that's a different thing. You're not going 100% in practice, and it's against another team. No one's trying to hurt each other. I'm gonna wait until I see the game, truthfully, because if I get into the game and I see Brian Thomas destroying Jamel Dean, then I'm like, okay, now I'm concerned, right? Because a lot of practice reps are 1v1s, and 1v1s, especially at the wide receiver cornerback level, always skew to the wide receiver. So I'll be patient before I make a rash judgment on my thoughts on practice.
Is it all right if I crank up the concern dial just one notch? I'm not panicking, but just a little bit of concern.
Yeah, that's all right.
And not with Jamel Dean because we know what he is, but Zion McCollum getting his first chance to be the guy.
That would be the one that, yeah.
And all praise to Zion McCollum. He took a big step forward last season. 2 years ago, he was unplayable. He was a disaster. He came on the field and you knew it was going to go poorly. Tackling was awful. Last year, he got a lot of opportunities with Carlton Davis being injured and Jamel Dean being injured. And by the end of the year, they were looking for different ways to get McCollum on the field. They put him at nickel or safety in the playoffs just because they wanted him out there. What a huge testament to that player to put him at a position he's never played because you want him on the field. Now he's going to be the starting outside corner. He's incredibly athletic. He's got some experience under his belt. He's got ball skills, but we need to see him do it. It's the mental thing. Are you tough enough? Are you ready for that physicality? Are you polished enough? So those are yet to be seen, even though I really like the way he's trending.
Yeah, it's like you got to look at the game I don't know. It's just it really
That's
is
the
going to be
problem.
like
We don't know. It's scary.
exactly.
I'm scared
I
of
don't
the
know what to
unknown.
say here. I'm like, I want to say that he'll be fine, but I truly don't know because he's looked bad in the past. You've seen glimpses of it, but not consistent enough to the point where you're like, I have faith that this is going to go well. You know,
But I think it's going to go well.
I do too. I think it is. I
I
do.
feel good about it, but if I were to stand here and say McCollum's going to crush it this year, that would be a lie. I don't know. I don't know that for sure deep down inside. I think
Yes.
he's going to be good, but
Yes.
I hope so.
Exactly. It's like, ooh, I hope so. Hold on. I just saw I gotta pull it up. Give me 2 seconds.
Mhm.
It was a I think this is, I don't know if this is from game 1. So take it with a grain of salt. Well, wait.
Game 1 of the preseason last week.
Never mind. I don't know what the recording size is here, so I'm not gonna. It was a stat about JTS versus Yaya Diaby, and I just don't know the sample size, so I don't want to speak on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, my apologies.
So
If you want to see what I'm talking about, just go to Josh Quapo's Twitter. It's a little graphic he put up. So
shout out to Josh Quapo, one of the
Yeah,
best
great guy.
interactions you'll find out there.
Great guy.
All right, tomorrow, second preseason game. What are you looking for?
I'm looking, like you said, Zion McCollum. That is Zion McCollum, and the D line, truthfully, is what my eyes are on. I always, mainly because I always watch the D line, but also because I want to make sure, they're looking good still. And I think, is Yaya going to play this week?
No, I think he's expected to be back for the opening week of the regular season, but we probably won't see him before then.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm more interested in
I wasn't
Kalijah
sure.
Cansey. He's been out this week, and I don't know why.
You're right. He has been. That is a bit concerning.
I think they would have said something if it were serious, but
I agree.
Again, I don't like the unknown.
Yeah. It's not fun.
So we'll probably be getting another heavy dose of Chris Braswell, Anthony Nelson on the edge, probably
Which is
Greg
fine
Gaines
with me.
and Logan Hall. Logan Hall, someone who's got something to prove for sure.
I love giving the young guys reps.
Oh, that's what the preseason's for. It's all teaching tape, You go out there, you do it, you go watch yourself. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what you did well. You get used to NFL speed. It's nothing but good for young guys.
What were your thoughts on Chris Braswell?
I was a little underwhelmed by what he did, but I was also
me too.
very aware that he was going against Marius Mims, who is a very promising offensive tackle prospect.
There's probably some tape. There's probably some tape from those two in college.
Yeah, I don't remember if Mims was healthy for when they played Alabama.
Oh, bummer.
I think he was for one of them at least.
There's got to be some.
Yeah, I think that SEC championship game, they probably went against each other.
Yeah,
I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah, me too. But that'd be fun.
I'd like to see a little bit more from him. I know he's got a lot to take in. Todd Bowles likes to drop edge rushers, and they're not stunting, and he's going to be doing a lot of stunts when it's real football. So I'm not discouraged by it, but it'd be nice to see him, put a move on a guy and get a sack. I want to
at least see that stack and shed that he did at Alabama with some run defense, because he was top notch at that.
Yes, power player for sure, but it's hard when you're going against the Bengals, who is a really good team. Their first team offense.
They got a pretty good offensive line out there on the tackles now too. Along. So yeah.
So I'm in no way discouraged. No. I think he's still going to be a very, very solid player, if not very good.
Yep.
I want those feel goods. Like you said, I want to see him overpower a guy. He's a very powerful. He's a great athlete. I want to see that, and I want to say, "Dang, who was that guy? Chris Braswell." Give me the vibes.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you want to see.
What I'm going to be looking for is I think I'm going to be in the other trenches. Offensive line again. Graham Barton, Elijah Klein. Obviously, these are going to be important players at various degrees of importance. We both agree Barton's winning that job. but the more we can see him versus NFL competition, the better.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's got a solid D line up there, so could be a good test for him.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who's going to play in this game for Jacksonville.
Me too. I haven't really seen anything of you about who they plan to play.
I have not.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Travion Walker out there.
Yeah, I don't think I've been looking to kind of follow up what I just said there, but
we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, I might do a quick little Twitter search here.
Let me ask you this as we are getting ready to watch the Buccaneers take the field.
Yeah.
Backup quarterback.
Starters are not expected to play tomorrow.
Not shocked for both teams?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Bummer. I liked seeing the Bengals first team offense versus the Bucs defense. So I like it when the other team plays their starters.
Yeah, Bucs said very few starters are expected to play. So I would assume that does not mean Graham Barton for those who are listening.
I would think the entire interior offensive line and Logan Hall start.
Correct.
Those would be the starters I would expect to see.
Yeah.
Where are we at with Kyle Trask versus John Wolford? Because some people were really impressed with Kyle Trask. He had some flashes. Like, he really dropped a really great pass in the bucket for Raheem Jarrett. But he also threw what should have been 2 interceptions, and he threw 2 hospital balls, one of which got Devin Culp a concussion.
Is it bad if I say I just don't care?
Not totally. I mean, if Baker goes down, this team's in trouble anyway.
I mean, that's kind of my point. It's like if Baker gets hurt, whoever you have a backup is not going to win you football games. He's not going to keep you in football. He's going to
keep you afloat. That's all you hope for.
I don't even know if they'll do that. Like, I get that you're like hoping that Trask can be decent, but he's out here flashing against third stringers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Trask is a rough watch, man.
I just, if Baker goes down, and what we were saying about him earlier is like, he's not going to win you games, but he's going to keep you alive. The other two are going to detrimentally drag you away from football games, from wins. So I truthfully just don't care, because I know that whoever wins the job, if they see the field, it's a problem.
Thank you. I would like to see John Wolford get the start in this game.
Sure.
Because it is a competition for the backup job. And I am the captain of the Kyle Trask hate ship. And it's nothing personal against Kyle Trask. I just think he's an awful football player. I think his future is in like real estate or something. And I want to see what Wolford could do with the quote unquote starters in this game. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm more invested in this competition. You're right. If Baker goes down, the team's in big trouble.
Yeah.
But I would like to see what Wolford can do, because he started playoff games for the Rams. Like he might be functional, and that's all I need him to be, is functional. Where I don't think Kyle Trask is a functional NFL player.
Yeah, I would like to see Wolford now get the reps that Trask got last week. I think that would be a good one. I agree. He was a terrible second-round pick.
Jason Light, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, it was rough. Look, I love the Graham Barton pick, but you could have traded up 2 picks and gotten Creed Humphrey in the second round.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yep.
Someone else really good went around that time too.
Oh, for sure. I can't remember all of it, but that was the one that stuck out in my mind.
I think it was the Graham Mertz, I think, went pretty close to there.
Graham Mertz is the quarterback for the Florida Gators this year.
Oh, who is that guy who was at the Senior Bowl and he was like the belly of the beast? And he was like that small school offensive lineman. He plays for the Broncos.
Quinn Miners. He went towards the end of the third round.
Could have had him there.
You could have drafted him there. Yeah, that would have been a good guard. Yeah, but I mean,
and he's so on brand for Jason Light. Like, he is everything Jason Light.
It's Senior Bowl, small school, mean. Like, it fits everything.
Got his gut sticking out. Like, he was made to be a Buccaneer, and they just said no, thank you.
Yeah, I would have loved to get Creed Humphrey.
Oh, for sure.
That would have been nice, because then you could have drafted
top 2 centers in the game.
Could have drafted like Cooper DeJean this year then.
That would have been good. Oh, the defensive tackle that went to Washington.
Huh? Oh, Johnny Newton. Yeah.
Johnny Newton could have drafted Johnny
Oh,
Newton.
man.
I think someone
Hey,
reported that he was the next guy on their list. Like it was Martin, or it was Newton, or
I believe it.
Barton.
I believe it. I fully believe it. He's
Probably
from
Peter
Tampa.
reported that
He's
because
probably
they're always in the know. But
they're top notch. He
we
is from Tampa.
speculated.
We did. We speculated. But love the Graham Barton pick. Don't get us wrong.
Yes.
Just reminiscing on what could have happened.
And if you got Creed Humphrey instead of Graham Barton, no one's complaining.
That might be a fun thing to do. Change one draft pick and it switches like an exercise, and it switches the entire future draft.
I know exactly which one it would have been.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have changed anything. I don't think it would have affected the Bucs winning a Super Bowl or not.
Oh,
but it would just give me peace of mind.
Which one?
It would have been Roberto Aguayo, of course, and I would have taken Kevin Byard.
Yeah, I knew it. You love Kevin Byard.
I do. I was so high on Kevin Byard. I have him as a first-round pick in that draft.
You think if they draft Kevin Byard, they don't draft Winfield?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
See that's what I'm saying. That could be a little fun thing to do at some point. Just throwing it out there. We don't have to get into it too much because we're already at an hour. But
yeah, this would be great off-season content if we existed during the off-season.
Hey, bye week content here. Okay. Is there anything else we want to touch on here?
Let me ask you one last question as we're talking about the state of the Buccaneers going into the second preseason game.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the Judon trade earlier, went to the Falcons. Falcons also signed safety Justin Simmons, who is an elite nickel, very good player.
Yeah.
A week ago, the betting odds told you the Falcons were the favorite, but I stood here and said, that's stupid. The Bucs are the best team in this division. Does that remain true after these two acquisitions? Are the Bucs winning the South?
I do. I think the Bucs are the better team. That said, I think the Falcons are a formidable team. I think it's going to be a tough fight each time we play them. But I think from top to bottom, the Bucs roster is better.
Are they winning the South?
Yes.
All right. I like it. I mostly agree with that. I think the Bucs are still the better team. Yeah. I think if I have to pick one of these teams to go to the Super Bowl, I'm picking the Bucs.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm picking them to win the South after these two moves. A week ago I was. Now I don't know.
What changes it?
The addition of these two players changes it. But more than anything, it is their third place schedule versus the Bucs' first place schedule.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Because the Bucs have the Ravens and they have the 49ers and they have the Lions.
It's a tough one.
The Falcons have the Vikings, who suck. And they just lost their quarterback.
Everyone. They lost everyone.
They have the Seahawks, who I think are going to suck.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, underrated coach.
Yep.
And they have the Steelers, who we still don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be.
Are they getting Brandon Ayuk? Who knows?
Literally, who knows? Somebody tell me.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So those are three potential losses for the Bucs, where I don't know if all three will be losses. Let's say they go 1-2 in those three games. Falcons are probably going 2-1 or 3-0, and I think that's the difference in winning the division.
Yeah, I'm my kind of, saving grace is that I like their hires. New hires. Yeah, I mean, Raheem Moore's coached, right? And he's a vet and he knows what he's doing, but we still don't know how all of them are going to mesh together well,
It's true.
So,
but I will say, I can't remember their offensive coordinator's name, but I know when the Bucs were looking for one, he was someone who was
Robinson.
Yes, coming from the Rams system. He was someone who was high on my radar for the Bucs.
Number one. Yep, me too.
So
it was him, Liam Cohen, and who was the other one? Shoot, I can't remember. But went to the Browns. Ken Dorsey.
Oh, Ken Dorsey, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, they have to put it all together. They have to make the pieces fit. but I like the pieces they have now. I think they did a really good job going for this win now window with Kirk Cousins, with the exception of their first round pick. That was a mistake. But getting Judon is a significant move. Getting Simmons is a significant move. I think that's enough to put him over the top, and I think the Falcons win the division. I said it.
See, the other thing about the Judon thing is that it doesn't matter specifically against the Bucs.
No, it does not.
I still think the Bucs could win both games against Atlanta.
Oh yeah, head to head, it changes nothing for me. I think at worst it's a split.
Yeah, at worst.
That's what happens when you have the best offensive tackle not named Trent Williams in football.
Yes, correct.
And Trent Williams is like 37, so
yeah, soon to be best tackle in football.
Yes, you hear that, Lions fans? Suck it, Trent. What?
Tristan Wirfs is better than Penei Sewell. There.
Everybody knows it outside of Detroit.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I hear a lot of Detroit radio. I have to say it.
It's all right.
I live in Michigan. There's a lot of dumb people here.
Yeah, but I think that is going to do it for this rendition of the Creamsicle Chronicles podcast. We are happy to be back after a bit of a sabbatical, if you want to call it that.
And we will be back on the regular Friday night, 9:30. Get used to it.
Yeah, we're back for the season. Excited for another fun one. Always love covering Bucs football, and love talking to y'all in the chat. So, Bucs Raise Bolts, shout out, big shout out to you for being a consistent contributor tonight. Hope you'll be back with us next week as well, as we talk more Bucs football. But other than that, y'all have a good night. Join us next week at 9:30 on Friday, and as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.